You know that feeling, right? There's some big crisis happening in the world, and you just find yourself completely glued to your phone. Your thumb is just scrolling and scrolling, and you literally can't look away. You want to stop, but you just can't. Well, if that sounds familiar, then this is for you. We're going to break down exactly what is going on in your brain in those moments and why it feels so absolutely impossible to escape that newsfeed. All right, so let's get right into it. The main problem is that almost magnetic pull of the newsfeed, that feeling that you have to see just one more update, one more video, one more headline. But here's the thing you have to understand. This is not about a lack of willpower. Not at all. What you're experiencing is a really powerful psychological mechanism. Your brain hasn't failed you. It's just been caught in a very clever trap. So what is this trap exactly? Let's get into the science of it, because what's happening on your screen is creating a very, very real chemical reaction inside your head. And it really boils down to this incredibly simple but crazy powerful cycle. It starts with fear. You feel a sense of fear or uncertainty about what's going on. So what do? You scroll, looking for information to make that feeling go away. But the information you find is almost always negative, which just triggers more fear. And that just makes you want to scroll again. And there's actually a name for this. It's the dopamine and fear loop. See, dopamine is the chemical that motivates us to seek out rewards. Every single time you refresh your feed, that anticipation of finding something new gives you a tiny little hit of it. The problem? Well, because the news is so often negative, that little reward is immediately just drowned out by a much, much bigger wave of fear and anxiety. But what's the reason for all this? Your brain isn't actually trying to make you miserable. It's really trying to protect you. When there's chaos all around, it desperately craves certainty. It's running on this flawed logic that just one more article, one more update, that's going to be the key piece of information that makes everything make sense and finally makes you feel safe. And this is where it gets really frustrating, right? This leads us to a huge paradox. The very thing you're doing to try and feel better is the exact thing that is making you feel worse. Just think about the difference here. On one side, you've got your brain's goal: find information, feel safe, feel certain. But then you have the actual result: feeling more anxious, more uncertain, and frankly, more in danger than you did before you even started scrolling. Because this loop is so powerful, consuming news this way stops being about just staying informed. It actually starts to work just like a psychological addiction. That urge to scroll becomes compulsive, and it's incredibly hard to stop, even when you know it's hurting you. Let's just look at that reward system again. With every single scroll, you get this tiny, unsatisfying little sliver of dopamine for finding something new. But then it's immediately followed by this massive wave of anxiety from what you're actually reading. The trade-off is just terrible, but the loop forces you to do it again and again. Okay, so we get the loop, but there's a deeper reason it works so well on us. There's a twist in this trap, a fundamental mistake that our brain falls for every single time. So let me ask you a question, and I want you to really think about it. In a huge global crisis, something that's happening thousands of miles away, does knowing every single detail about it give you any actual control over what happens? The answer, of course, is no, it doesn't. And this right here, this is the most critical takeaway of this whole thing. Your brain thinks that information will equal safety, but in this kind of situation, it just doesn't. What's happening here is that your brain has fallen for a classic cognitive trap. It's called the illusion of control. It's confusing the feeling of being informed with the reality of being in control. And because you can't actually influence the event, your brain latches onto the one thing it can control, constantly refreshing for new information. But it's just an illusion. So how do we escape? Well, just understanding that illusion, that's the huge first step to breaking the cycle and taking back real control. Not control over world events, but control over your own mind and your own attention. And let's be really clear about what's at stake. This is not just about managing your anxiety. Being trapped in a constant state of fear and emotional reaction doesn't make you safer. In fact, it does the opposite. It makes you more vulnerable and a whole lot easier to manipulate. So ultimately, the path to genuine control isn't about finding more information. It's about having less engagement with the loop itself. The truly powerful move here is to recognize the trap for what it is and consciously choose to step out of it. And all of that leaves us with one final, very important question to think about. If this entire cycle makes us anxious and exhausted and easier to influence, then we have to ask ourselves, Who exactly benefits from keeping us scrolling?